Now, I'm a collector. I always have been. I can't remember a time that I wasn't slowly or quickly accumulating a bunch of different objects, bric-a-brac, knickknacks, a lot of things that I don't really know how to characterize but have become synonymous with my collection. And I'd like to talk to you about some of these objects today. I'm always told to enjoy life, live life slowly, to have a bit of fun. So what say you? We have a little bit of fun today. Now forgive me, this is my first time. I think we've got it. Now, today, this is my, well, a small part of my collection. Some of it is in many different places, in my studio, in my accommodation, and also in my childhood home. And I am here today to show you what I've got here. Brilliant. Now, I'd first like to start with a little thing that I personally love. Now, this is absolutely beautiful. It is a letter opener. I think it's pretty easy to tell that it is a letter opener. It kind of looks perhaps like a dagger, especially the handle. It's really gorgeous, a bit of mahogany wood perhaps. It's almost shaped like a banister maybe. Now, I think I got this now. Was it an antique shop? It must have been an antique shop. Or perhaps a charity store. Now, I think this was a charity store. There is this beautiful charity store in Windsor. That's where my mother and my dog lives. That I go into all the time. It's a vintage charity store. Well, they say vintage. I'm not sure how vintage a lot of the stuff is, especially with this, but I do love it. And I got that about maybe 2-3 years ago. Quite a lot of stuff in this collection is new. Quite a lot of it is very old. It's kind of hard to quantum a lot of these things when it's been part of what I've loved my whole life, really. Now, next, I am going to speak about these wooden mushrooms. Now, the funniest thing, these wooden mushrooms. You can perhaps try and count how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is not my whole collection of wooden mushrooms. I have more. Can you believe I have more wooden mushrooms? It's funny. Rather funny, I did a similar video talking about my collection from my studio and my flat. And I said, how many wooden mushrooms does one need? It got a few laughs. They didn't realize in that video there was 2 wooden mushrooms. They didn't realize I have a whole 9 others at home. But sometimes that is how it is. People don't know the full scope of what things are. It really just depends. Now, funny enough, this lovely, lovely wooden decal that has some of my stuff on, I got it from, well, it was from eBay. I was looking for It's a tiered cake stand, and I was looking for one for my art to display for A-levels. I spent hours and hours looking, and I decided that this was the perfect one. And I got it, and I must say I have used it in so many of my art pieces throughout the years. Well, I got this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And it's been a hit since, I must tell you. I'd like to speak a bit about, well, about the wands. The wands. So, there is a few of them. This one is bamboo. Beautiful, with a bit of wire, a rose quartz bottom, and a tip of pure quartz. Now, I've spoken about it before in a few of my videos, but I was pagan for a few years. Quite a few things are remnants from those days. I still consider myself rather spiritual, but I feel like I don't have enough time to practice. There's 8 holidays, that's rather a lot of holidays, rather a lot of me making bread, that it just took up a lot of time, and I just don't have enough time anymore to dabble in witchcraft. But it is a lot of fun, and this is another one of wood, and I believe the tip is kyanite. Brilliant little thing. This was from about, I must have been, was I in year 8 or year 9? No, I was in year 9. So it must have been 2015, 2016, 2016 to 2017, 2017 to 2018. It must have been the end of 2017 to the start of 2018 and a bit into 2019. So that was rather a long time ago, as it's 2024 now. How time flies, I must say. Now let me move this so I have a little ashtray. And this wooden pot, God, I do love that wooden pot. Well, wooden pot, wooden bowl. There we go. I actually got it. It was from it was an African store in Camden Market, I believe. This was about maybe 3-4 years ago. And, well, I was going around, it was a photography project, and I was doing a lot of photography, and I just wandered in, and it is a beautiful bowl. If you would ignore the ash, I'm pretty sure it's walnut. It was beautiful. I also got a spoon, but I can't seem to place where the spoon is anymore, which is rather a shame, because it is a part of my collection. Things are still a part of my collection, even if I don't know where they are, because I know they exist and they have always been a part of my collection. It's not necessarily a physical, although it is a physical thing, it is not necessarily all a physical thing. I have a hard time exactly explaining my collection. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It just kind of is. But I'm trying. I'm trying my best, I'm sure you can see. Now, this really is, it's rather silly. If you can see, it's a mini hat. One of those summer hats. That's a little clip. I used to put it on. Now this, it's a mini version of my school hat I had as a kid. And there was this, once a year, a hat competition. Now I won. I don't know if I won this year. This was me being a bit cheeky, perhaps. It was supposed to be the most ostentatious hats win. I made one, I think the year that I won, I made this huge hat. It was like a top hat, but it was a tree trunk with squirrels coming out of it. It was made with mesh wire and hodgepodge and newspaper and a lot of that painted over. And it was frankly absurd. And the next year I thought, everyone's going to think I want to top it, so I made a tiny version of my school hat. People laughed. I did not win. One doesn't win with something like that, but it gave me a laugh and it became part of my collection. There is one thing that I can't seem to remember. I don't know where that massive tree trunk hat is. One would think it'd be in the garage, but I've gone through the garage multiple times to find a lot of these objects and a lot of other objects. A lot of them seem to have disappeared, and I guess it makes sense. What can you do with a massive tree hat? But throw it away or have it collect dust in the garage. A lot of these items, I've thought about how to display them, how to talk about them. So people have spoken about how I could have a cabinet to have them all in, to have people interact with these items, because they think that that's something they would like. But at the same time, a huge part of this is these are not items that I put on display and then collect dust. These are items that I move around. The ones that are displayed in my flat, every time I have to do something with the window and take them all down, you know, they're in a new pattern. Or if I get, God forbid, another thing to add to my collection, I spend time reorganizing them. And they're a bit of a chaotic mess. But at the same time, they're perfectly manicured to be that way. It's interesting. Well, I find it interesting. Now, what should we talk about next? Well, let's think about this. There is a couple watches and stopwatches in this collection. This, gosh, is extremely old. I'm not sure how old it is. I'm pretty sure it was my mother's granny. It wasn't Granny Molly. It was my mother's grandmother's, I believe. It's a ladybird, or yes, it's a ladybird, or it's a beetle. I think it's a ladybird because you can see the spots. It's got a lot of wear over the years, so you might not be able to properly see them. But it is a beautiful, beautiful part of the collection. I remember being young and absolutely adoring this. It was something that I looked at a lot. Oh, my pillow. It was something I looked at a lot, and that was about it. It didn't obviously become part of my collection then, but as I've grown and my dad moved out and things got moved around, there's more stuff that I've just picked up and acquired. It's still in the same place. It's still technically owned by my mother, but it has become a part of the collection. Now, what to speak about next? Let me speak about this. Now, this is a lovely bit of pewter. It's a lovely little symbol. I used to have it on a choker for about a year. I made this myself in DT. Was I in year 7? No, I was in year 8. Year 8? Or was it year 9? I think this might have been year 9. Was this year 9? Because I do believe I was dating a friend of mine, and that was year 9. So I think this was year 9. I thought it was year 8, but it is year 9. I remember I spent hours and hours buffing this, trying to get it shiny. It's lost a lot of its shine. It is the Earth symbol from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I was a big fan. I still kind of am. I started watching it in, I don't know if it was year 5 or year 6. But it was, you know, something that I really enjoyed, and I wanted this symbol because I was obsessed with a character called Toph. She was a lot of fun. You know, it's a lot more difficult being filmed and talking about this. I did a video where I did a voiceover talking about a number of different things and layered them. And this was a next step for me to talk about it to a camera. It's a lot more difficult than I thought. Quite funny. But that's how things are. Now, this stopwatch. There we go. It is unfortunately cracked at the back. It is a beautiful stopwatch. I remember it was £20. My grandpa got it for me in, was it Greenwich Market? I think it was Greenwich Market. It's a beautiful stopwatch. It's still moving. If you can see, it's still moving. But it doesn't work. I don't think it works. Oh? It does. It does work. Oh. Okay, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's broken, and it became a part of my collection after that. A lot of things became a part of my collection as they grew old, as I didn't use them, as they broke. That's kind of how things turn up here. How it kind of works. Now, these glasses, absolutely beautiful. Now, they're vintage glasses. I'm not sure when they are from, but they are absolutely beautiful. I love the pearlescent accents. The only issue is they do not suit me at all. Rather a shame. So they became part of the collection. Now they're just something shown off as a trinket, as something to look at and enjoy. And it's something that I do enjoy very much, looking at it. Now there's a number of different bottles, especially the antique old bottles. A lot of them are, there's a couple perfume bottles, there's some that looks like tinctures. I'm not sure what a lot of them would have been used for. But at the same time, I had a big obsession with bottles. I have, in the studio in my flat, I have at least 20 of them. Here, I only have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10. Some of them are upstairs. They are very enjoyable. I do love looking at them. Occasionally I'd put plants in, but all the time they just kind of sit there. I started collecting bottles in maybe 2016, 2017, and I just got more and more and more. I got to the point where my mum, when I'd go out, there'd be a clink of my bag and she'd be like, more bottles, and I'd be like, yes, perhaps, perchance more bottles. Well, they're very enjoyable. Now this is rather lovely. This is my first time having a cigar, and the taste is quite refined. It is quite nice. I thought it would suit the whole aesthetic I'm going for here. Now, what to talk about next? Well, we were talking about a few watches. This is one to talk about. This double clock, absolutely beautiful, pendant on a chain. There's the little pentagram from my pagan days. And I used to have it set as the time now and the time in, I believe it was Colorado. I got one for a friend of mine who lived in Colorado in America. Now I'm kind of tempted to use it again and have the time set as Japan time, because my sister lives in Japan now. There's a couple things, part of this collection, that I've gotten from Japan that she has given to me and have been collected. A lot of them are in my studio, so I can't show them here now, but there is a couple things. Now, I think the most recent addition to my collection, absolutely adore. They're the most stupid things ever. I love them. these metal monkeys. Absolutely adorable. Now, I'm pretty sure they're the speak no evil, see no evil, hear no evil. That would make sense because they're covering different parts. Made in England. I assume it is a paperweight. Absolutely adorable. Now, I got that last week. The collection never stops. They're beautiful. I absolutely love them. Again, I got these from a charity store. Of course I did. It was £1. And they fit perfectly in with my stuff, especially my gold tone stuff, because I've got quite a few. Now, speaking of gold tone, this little, I guess you could call it a chalice, was a part of this gold tea set that my family had. They still have, but I don't know where the rest went. They were in the garage, and last time I looked for them, they were gone. So this is all that remains, at least to me, of this little tea set. I don't know, I think it's been in my family since I was born, 20 odd years ago. Gosh, I can say that now. I turned 20 2 months ago, so I can say 20 odd years ago. But it's beautiful. It's part of my collection. It's part of the things that I associate with my life growing up and experiencing life and collecting parts of my life into this. I don't know what will happen when my mum moves from this house, when, you know, things change. Would I eventually get a place to live? It's not student housing. I'm not sure what will happen with a lot of this stuff, because a lot of it obviously will be taken with me and become part of my collection in that new place, but I don't want to see these things go into boxes. That's not how things should be enjoyed, experienced. Now, it's rather funny because I've been doing this collecting and displaying for a long time. I spoke about it with my mum actually a few days ago. There we go, it started again. There we go. The palette is cleansed, as you could say. Now, what to talk about next? This. It's not from my mother's side of the family, it's from the other side. Beautiful little thing. For makeup, I believe. If I can open it. Is it a mirror? There we go. It's a mirror and a little powder thing. I'm not opening the powder thing. I don't use powder. My skin is good enough. No, it's not, but I don't like the feeling of it on my face. Beautiful little thing. It's gorgeous. It's from my dad's side of the family. There's a couple things from there. I think it was from Great Granny Molly. Beautiful little pin. With Mount Fuji, I believe, in the background. Beautiful. Now this. Golden medal from judo competition. I did judo. I did judo growing up. From reception to year 8, was it? Reception 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So for about 9 years, I did judo. I absolutely love judo. It was brilliant. I won some medals. I won some trophies. A lot of them a bit too big and a bit too gaudy to go in this collection, but I rather liked a small one. Now, what to talk about next? Well, let's talk about this lovely little guy. It's one of those spinner things. My sister made it for me. She gave it to me a couple months ago, and she had just gotten back from Japan. I'm actually visiting her in Japan in about a month and a bit, which should be rather exciting. I'd love to see her. She's working on Aomori in the Tsuruta prefecture. Or is it? She's working in Tsuruta in the Aomori prefecture. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember which way round they are, I'll be honest. Now this is a beautiful, there is a small chip in it, but it is a malachite bangle with copper on the inside, or brass. I'm not entirely sure, I think it might be copper, yes. Malachite is one of my favourite gems. It is a beautiful gem. It is a gem that I quite like because when one looks at it a lot of the time they can think that it is Play-Doh. It's got that rather, well, it's got a stripy decal. It's a bit like a Play-Doh. So a lot of the times in charity stores it is sold for rather cheap, meaning a couple pounds when it is a gem. Maybe not worth an extreme amount, especially the stuff that I find in charity stores, but it is quite a steal, if I say so myself. Now this, and this is it ruby in ziosite? Ruby in something beginning with a Z. You can see maybe perhaps the bits of pink in the green gem. It's lovely, it's cheap, and the texture is very, very pleasant. And what should I talk about next? I'll have to get up for this one. And go all the way around. With a little break behind the chair to talk about this chair. This chair came from when my parents moved to this house. Now this was a friend of theirs' chair. They were getting rid of one of them, and my parents needed furniture, and they got this chair. It is absolutely perfect for what I wanted to do for my filming. So obviously I had to take it down the stairs. It was rather tough lugging it, but I think it perfectly fits the job. Now what I'm going to speak about is over here. This little fairy portrait. Now this, I had, well, I think, did me and my sister share them? I can't exactly remember. There is 3 little fairy portraits. Rather cute. I think I've always had them growing up. Probably my sister got them, and it just became, you know, something that me and my sister both owned. And they've always just been kind of in the corner of my life growing up. I found them and took them out of the garage maybe 7 years ago. Because, you know, they were part of my life and I don't want to get rid of them. Beautiful. I'll put it down there. Now, I've rather a lot of bits of jewellery and brooches in my collection. I don't know what to talk about. I've got so many. Now I spoke about bottles. This is a little perfume bottle, and this actually came from, I worked in a charity store. It was rather perfect, not great. Well, my mother would, it would mean that I would come back home with a lot of different stuff when I worked in the charity store. So maybe my mother wasn't too thrilled, but this beautiful little bottle. The colour is absolutely gorgeous. It's an absolute favourite of mine. It's so cute. I love small stuff. It's a perfect little small thing. And that was from the charity store that I worked in and absolutely loved. Now, actually, the box that the penknife is in, letter opener, is this beautiful box. The incense. Now, I do love a bit of incense, and this box is absolutely beautiful. The wood is gorgeous, and I mean, it fits this little, you know, knife, but it is for incense. Now, this beautiful little heart with flowers. Now, I got this in Edinburgh. So my sister went to Edinburgh University studying Japanese. Makes sense. She is in Japan working and living right now, so it makes sense that she studied Japanese at university. And did we go up when there was the Fringe Festival? I can't remember exactly, but there was this beautiful hall selling a lot of different things. This was in 2017, I believe. I might be wrong, but it was cold and it was snowing, and I think it was 2017. And I got this. I actually had this I lived in Winchester for about 4 months in a little flat with my mother and my dog. And this I had displayed on the wall for a bit. Now it is it was displayed there as a little collection. I had a very small collection when I lived there. And now it has returned to the motherlode, the big collection. I actually had it on the wall last year. I was in Kingston for university doing fine art, and it was on the wall. I had this beautiful wall decal that was this absolutely massive frame that I actually got from the side of the road. A friend of mine lived in a different accommodation. I'd walk there with him a lot. I helped him take this very stupid unit back to his flat. He helped me take this very stupid unit back to my flat, because we both can't help ourselves with vintage and old furniture. I hope he's doing well now. But I'd walk to his flat, and I saw it about maybe 4 times, and whenever I'd walk with him, I'd say, I want to pick that up. I want that frame. He said, what are you going to do with this massive frame? And it's about AA1, perhaps. It's an A0, I think. I said, what on earth are you going to do with it? And when I was coming back from his one time, it was about... What time was it? Maybe it was about 2 a.m. And I was coming back from his. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to take it. And I did. And I don't know if I can call it part of my collection. It kind of is part of my collection now. But it was on the wall, and I was going to stretch canvas under it, but I ended up having paper behind it. And I had this extremely ugly corkboard that I put this over and displayed a number of different things, including a knife that, well, is another pen knife, but it looks like, I think, a kind of like ancient Egyptian knife that looks dagger. That's really cool. But it is obviously not here. It's in my flat. It's a beautiful display. I did really like it. Now, there is a number of gems all across this table. One of them is this watermelon tourmaline. Now, I can't remember exactly when I got it. I think I was about 6, 7. I don't think I was 5. I think I was 6 or 7. I've always been interested in gems. My dad likes gems. We once went to, well, not once, we used to go every single year to this rock and gem show. I think it was in Maidenhead? I think it was in Maidenhead. Well, I think it was at the Maidenhead racecourse, actually. In the big hall they had. It was a beautiful place. We went every year. I had a spending budget, and I could get a couple gems. I've gotten rather a lot of gems from there, and it was something, well, I think it fully sparked my interest in gems, and now, maybe you can tell, I'm still extremely interested in gems. It's a special interest. If you can tell, I'm autistic, and it is a big special interest of mine. I can tell you about so many gems. You can point them out to me, and I'll tell you, which ones they are. I'll identify them. I went to the GIA. I was going to do a gemology course, but then COVID fucked that up. But I went to the GIA, and it was funny, they were doing this, match the names to the gems, and was there about 20 of them, something like that, and I got them all correct, and they were like, oh, you won this bag, and I was like, oh, I didn't realise I was winning anything, but that's brilliant. I just did it because I wanted to flex my knowledge, because I would say I'm rather knowledgeable in gems. Well, I am knowledgeable in gems. Don't mean to toot the old horn. The tourmaline. I think this was the first gem that my dad bought me. There was quite a few more. I don't know if this was before or after the Rock and Gem show. Now, he would occasionally buy me a lot of gems when I wasn't feeling that great. I have this lapis lazuli necklace that I got from him. This was Amazon. Again, was this 2013 maybe? And they were beautiful. There's a lot of gems that I have that just became part of the collection, but a lot of them stand out a lot more to me. That watermelon tourmaline especially stands out above a lot of these gems that I've gotten from friends, or I've gotten from charity stores, or even the Natural History Museum I got a couple from. Now, one thing about my collecting habit, I don't think I can stop it. I don't know if this is something that's just part of me, something that's an autistic trait, because I do know a lot of autistic people do similar things with collecting a bunch of stuff, maybe to do with their special interests, whereas some of this is to do with my special interest, but it also has almost become an interest in it of itself, the collecting. It is something that I don't think I'll ever stop as I grow old. A lot of the times you see, and you have the experience of grandparents or parents collecting stuff. Your grandparents' favourite china, it's in a cabinet, never's used. The glass creatures, my grandparents have glass creatures. But again, these are in cabinets, they're never used, they're never displayed, they're never played with, they just sit there. And I want to change that when I grow old, if I have kids or younger family members. I want my collection to be something they can enjoy and they can interact with, and maybe jumpstart a collection of their own. A lot of the stuff I have, I've gotten from family members, from older relatives. And I want this collecting to continue. It is a love of mine. Now, I hope you've enjoyed a tour of my collection. And maybe I'll see you again for another collection update. And maybe you will start collecting too. That would be brilliant. And I'd love for you to show me. Now, I do believe it is time to say goodbye. Wonderful talking. And I hope you will retain some of what I've told you about my collecting habits, the art of a collection. It's rather therapeutic, I find, especially organising my collection. They're organised in a very specific way that I do love. Now, I hope you have a good day, and maybe I will see you again. Goodbye. One thing I wonder is, with my collection, does living beings count in it. I've got several plants that I could call part of my collection, that I show off within my collection. None over here, but in my flat and studio. And my baby Levi, something I love, is living, but perhaps not so much part of my collection. But there's a difference between plants and animals, I guess. So it does make sense that maybe, well, a few succulents I've had for years and a mini cactus is a part of my collection, why my dog isn't as much a part of the collection. Go on. Now, something I do not think about as much is how others view my collection, my collecting habits. Now, just a couple days ago, I have a few new parts of my collection. Now, just as of a few days ago, I have a couple new parts of my collection. I'd like to show them. These new parts of my collection, this glorious glass, well, I assume it had perfume once, an antique perfume display, or perhaps even air freshener and the likes. It's rather beautiful. At first it was quite stiff, but I loosened it. I got this from a charity store a few days ago in Winchester. A new part of my little collection, my little family. And this, I think, a beautiful, beautiful little box. You can see there's brass dice on the top. And of course, beautiful, beautiful box. You can see the brass dice on the top. And of course, the wooden dice with brass bits on inside. Beautiful little thing that I got for £4.50. It's quite absurd how little a lot of people charge for these things that are so gorgeous and one would think could be a lot more money. I wonder, different people view my collection in different ways. To some, it is seen as an old man's habit, something your grandparents would have that they never touch. You just see every time you visit them. Some people see it as an extension of my autism and my obsessions and interests, which it is in certain manners, but it's so much more than that. It is a need to collect, to almost hoard. Oh, shut up. Christ. It is so much more than that. It's a need to... It is a need to almost hoard my possessions, my jewels, my treasures. Almost like a dragon in a sci-fi, in an adventure movie. What does a dragon get out of gold, wealth, jewels, jewelry, weapons, nothing. It's a bloody dragon. It just sits on it, and that's somehow how I feel about my collection. But it's not as static as that, or grandparents' collection that just sits in a cabinet for 40 years. It's something that I interact with on the daily. I move the position. Some things I use for different manners or another. I do like to reorganize and redecorate my collections every once in a while, especially the one on my windowsill needs to be moved rather a lot if there are some works going on in my flat. Often I am required to remove a lot of the things. Often I don't even know something's going on and they remove it for me, and I come back and I make something new. Especially with when I get more stuff, it becomes new, it reforms, it transmutes into a different collection, but still the same. It's in a different order, it looks different, it might have different components, but it still has this same spirit that all my collections have.